Welcome, guys. Today we have a very special interview. I'm here with Chet Osman, who's a member of the Department of Education of the American Communist Party. In the West, when you hear Cultural Revolution, you think of a period of time.
Yes.
Whereas in China, when you use the word Cultural Revolution, it represents specific forms of extremism that might have occurred in that 10-year period.
Yeah, depending on who you're talking to,
Yeah.
is just a word with which you should be careful. In China, there's a lot more sensitivity around that term in general. You and I, yesterday, we talked about the Down to the Countryside movement, which Xi Jinping was a part of. As a young man, he went to this very impoverished village in Shanxi province. And that's where he got a lot of his early experience with the grassroots, with the masses. Just because it falls under that decade umbrella of the Cultural Revolution, this is obviously something that's in general viewed very positively. There's even like recent TV dramas that have come out, like literally celebrating this sort of movement. People see that in the West and they immediately code it as like, oh, so the Xi Jinping administration is pro-cultural revolution, as like this blanket thing. But it's much more carefully parsed out in Chinese discourse.
It's interesting that that sector of the Communist Party of China, when they hear Cultural Revolution, they think of like the people that were real ones, real communists that perhaps ended up getting unfairly or unjustly persecuted. And you were talking about the nuances of the line that someone like Xi Jinping comes from, where they were with the process, but some of them were like unfairly attacked in that period. So what they register Cultural Revolution as is like that injustice and not just this whole period. Why do you think that is?
I'm just gonna do a quick self-promo. The TV drama that I translated, Into the Great Northwest, it's completely free on YouTube. It is this massive biopic of Xi Jinping's father. There's a lot of metaphors and allusions in there. Even though it's not set during the Cultural Revolution, they're also talking about these instances of ultra-leftism in the Cultural Revolution. There are examples pre-liberation, pre-1949, where the Communist Party was trying to figure out who are the infiltrators. Every communist party deals with that. And there are people who end up persecuted, who are killed, who were innocent, who were loyal communists. Of course, they change all the names because it's just a TV show dramatization. But they give these characters who are the examples of the loyal communists who got persecuted and then unjustly killed. And then they have these characters who are the ultra-leftists, who are the people actually prosecuting that line. And it's made very clear in the show that these people are also very loyal communists, loyal to the party. And they feel that they're absolutely following through on their duties as communists. Here's the key thing. In a Hollywood type of drama like this, that ultra-leftist person, or whatever it would be in the Hollywood equivalent, that would be the evil super villain. But if you watch Into the Great Northwest, you realize by the end of it, there's actually a redemptive arc. The ultra-leftist representative, he actually comes to Xi Jinping's father and delivers his own self-criticism. He says like, this is where I went wrong. This is how I isolated my comrades. And Xi Jinping's father promotes him. And there's even a scene where the wife of the loyal communist who was killed by this guy, she comes to Xi Jinping's father and she said, how could you? This ultra-leftist, he almost destroyed everything and he killed an innocent man, he killed my husband. And Xi Jinping's father just says, this is about bigger things than just these individual. And that's a huge thing, to say to the wife of a man who was killed. And again, this is TV drama, this is fictionalized. The point is that the Xi Jinping administration, these sort of shows are representative of the kind of views of history that this government takes very seriously.
There seems to be a nuance into this administration where it doesn't seem to be willing to just do blanket condemnation and erasure of the ultra-leftists. It treats it, to not to be cliche and jargony, but it treats that history very dialectically.
Yes.
Of course, in the mainstream media, they talk about Beijing, China. It's just one big thing. We should do the same thing with the Soviet Union. You can expect that from the capitalist media. China's not homogenous. It's got a lot of internal plurality, debate. It still has segments of the party that are in the left wing in terms of thinking things are going ahead good and China should be supported, but things could be going much quicker.
Yeah.
It's got sectors that are very right wing. Right wing in the sense of it wants closer relations with the West.
Absolutely.
We featured actually an article from one of these left wing young scholars of the CPC
Red America,
in Red America,
yeah.
where he talked about the importance of challenging that right wing of the party that wants to get closer to the West, to the US, to the EU, NATO orbit. Can you speak a little bit about that complexity of ideological perspectives, sensibilities, etc. in the CPC, and how it is that Xi Jinping's line comes to win, and where it fits in that dynamic plurality of perspectives that exist in the CPC?
I don't want to speak too holistically. That's like an extremely long, complex question about, like, it sounds like part of what you're asking is like, how does Xi Jinping come to power? But maybe I could bring up something that we talked about yesterday. It was a governor right before Xi Jinping actually ended up becoming president in 2012, 2013. This is like Obama's first term.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it like that. In Obama's first term, there are a lot of questions about who is going to be the next leader of China. There was another guy being talked about. His name was Bo Xilai. He was the governor of Chongqing, the governor of the cyberpunk city. He brings back a lot of like really popular sort of old school Maoist nostalgia. And you've got people marching through the streets, chanting slogans, the good old days. They're chanting slogans like "Sing the red, strike at the black," which means sing the old communist songs. Don't be ashamed of your communist heritage. Strike at the black means take down corrupt officials. And people, were really into it. There was a genuine grassroots populism. Here he is putting out all these slogans and promoting all of this, whatever, new leftism, neo-Maoism, what have you. All of a sudden, the police are at his house because he and his wife murdered a British financier who was threatening to blackmail them because he had helped them move a lot of their wealth to France. It was looking like, with all this wealth being moved over to France, they were possibly going to abscond. They ended up murdering this British financier in a huge corruption scandal, and he goes to prison. One of the sort of recurring themes in Xi Jinping era media, there's nothing wrong with nostalgia. We are not ashamed of the Mao years. This was a great time of Chinese socialist construction and China's development. But the recurring theme is be very wary of leaders who would invoke slogans possibly as a mask of their own corruption. This was also a very common trope throughout the Cultural Revolution era. You did have people who would cynically deploy these kind of slogans to hide their own corruption. That's the kind of thing that Xi Jinping era officials are very on guard about. Like, what are your actions? What are you actually doing on the ground? That's sort of the middle ground, or like the golden center that the Xi administration walks.
And that left wing, can it just be reduced to that one corrupt official?
The answer is like a very hard no. This is not to say like, oh, and that's all that leftism is in China. And Chairman Haas actually got to meet Professor Kong Qingdong. He's part of this new left milieu. He's a very loyal party member, has been for decades. He's one of China's top intellectuals. He's the kind of guy, you'll see him on TikTok, talking about the poverty alleviation campaign in very positive terms. But more often, and this is a good thing, you will see him continuing to levy these critiques at how Chinese society still has a long way to go. That's very much the Maoist spirit of self-criticism. That's what these guys are doing. They're making sure that they're not getting complacent. The kind of mindset of the Xi Jinping administration and what they're thinking about as far as preserving Chinese heritage, the continuation of history, how communists are not, like, you said your professors in college were saying they just wiped all this stuff out. No, communism is the rightful inheritors of Chinese civilization and Chinese history. It is the party to carry that forward into the 21st century, that kind of mindset.
I read a line in Roland Bohr's Socialism and Chinese Characteristics, a period in time in the 2000s where you could ask your average party member about Marx or Engels or Lenin, they had no clue who the fuck they were. You talk a little bit about perhaps reintroducing Marxism into the soul of Chinese society since 2014. There's a lot of new institutes and academies and universities, museums.
It's been huge. It's the kind of thing where you just say like revitalizing the spirit of it. The reason I mention museums is because the museum that Haas visited there, I mean, you know, you have these like busts of Marx quotes. In English, it's called party building. A lot of translators complain about this. First of all, you got to explain to people, you're not talking about like a party office. You're not talking about a party building. It's talking about the process of how do you go about putting into party members that kind of party spirit, party loyalty, that internalizing of Marxism. There have been massive efforts toward building up that process of party building. This is actually a conversation I had, just a casual conversation I had with a party member. And I forget how it came up, but that I'm a Christian, I'm a practicing Christian, I go to church every Sunday, and I had already mentioned that I was a member of the Communist Party. And she said to me, wait a minute, you're a Christian and you're a party member. You can't. I was like, what do you mean? It's like two different. So we kept talking. This has always been very common in the West. This has always been the policy of the CPUSA. As we talked back and forth, it became very clear that it was almost like I had said I was a Muslim and a Christian. I brought this quote up with her because it reminded me of it. Kim Il-sung said, I started to understand religion better when I realized the people, the masses, that's my God. And then he was like, okay, now I can actually understand where religious people are coming from. And when I bring up that metaphor, communism as a religion, a Marxist in the US would get very offended, like, no, I'm a materialist atheist. But when I bring that up with party members in the CPC, they're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. In the CPC, you cannot be a member of any other religious group. That's actually true. You can't be a Christian, a Muslim, or what have you. That's 100% true. But that's why their faith, and I just want to emphasize this, they use the exact same word that a Christian would use to describe their faith is in communism. Or like Kim Il-sung said, in the people. In the US, they get very uncomfortable with that.
In China, communism is a faith. Whenever I get asked if I'm religious, it's like, well, such a difficult question.
Loaded question, yeah.
For me, communism is my religion. Yeah. That's the level of faith that I have in that.
Yes.
And then when I look at other traditions, culturally, the one that I'm closest to is like Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
I interpret whatever I like the most in it. Well, it's communism. How I read back historical figures like Jesus or Paul or others, it's like, well, that's communism, man.
Yes.
There's a famous letter from Marx. He gets asked, where has communism ever worked? He says, go read the letters of St. Paul.
In the West, we have, freedom, democracy. That's kind of, worn out, and especially younger.
Youth doesn't buy it.
They don't even take that all that seriously. There are very good translators, but they're not communists, and they don't really care much about the Communist Party.
They don't care about what's at stake.
As a result, they're not choosing works to translate that would communicate that understanding for the American people. And on my end, I'm trying to provide those resources in English so that people don't have to go through the whole process teaching themselves Chinese, that you can get more of these resources. That's a way to boil down my mission statement.
Very good. That's a very good purpose in life. Thank you so much for doing this, Chad. It's been a real pleasure talking with you as always.
Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you.